Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk in southeast Scotland. It's, good grief, the end of June already, which means we have passed the summer solstice, which means we have gone past the peak, the zenith of summer, and we are heading towards winter. So the nights are getting longer, the days are getting shorter. I just thought I'd start on that really cheery note, especially for everybody that is in the Northern Hemisphere. In the Southern Hemisphere, you have the opposite thing happening, which is great for you. You have gone past the winter solstice, and you are heading into summer, which means your days are becoming longer, and your nights are becoming shorter, and everything is warming up for you, whereas everything is cooling down up here in the Northern Hemisphere. All wonderful proof that the Earth is, in fact, a globe. Not that this is a Flat Earth debunking channel. It's not. I just thought it would be funny. So anyway, welcome everybody. We've got at least one new person here this evening, which is awesome, and thank you to Mike for pestering your friend and making them a victim to come here. So please everybody be very nice to and say a big hello to Random Expat, who I believe is probably a US expat to the Philippines. I am pretty sure I have got that correct. So welcome. He has just subscribed. I don't know who you are by name, but I really don't feel comfortable calling you Random. So I don't know what to call you, but but welcome, and I'm glad you're here. I hope you find not just this show, but my songwriting show on Wednesdays. I hope you find both of those two shows that I do every week. I hope you find those useful and helpful and informative. Plus also all the other stuff that's on my channel. I've got a lot of videos going back over like 11 or 12 years. So yes, I have assumed US expat. You're not an expat yet, but you're working on it. Okay. All right, so you're planning on heading over to the Philippines. That's interesting. So yes, given the title of the person's channel, which is Random Expat, I assumed, therefore, that since Mike persuaded this person in, that he is already an expat to the Philippines. But there we go. What if words for when no one listens anymore? This is entirely true. Anyways, welcome to our new subscriber, and I hope you enjoy yourself here, and I hope you find this community really friendly and helpful. They are a cracking, superb bunch of people. Some of them have been around here for every single one of my shows, and Sunday Night Live is rapidly approaching 400 shows, and I can tell you for certain that a certain Bobby Booth has been to every single one. I don't think he has missed a single show. So that's pretty impressive. His original name is Pat. He's now called Bill the Expat. I like that. That's funny. All right, so Billy Morgan was first in the door, followed by Ron, the key man. And of course, Mike has been making an awful lot of conversation here. We got Random Expat here as well. Bobby Booth, who I mentioned being one of the few people, I reckon there's probably a handful of people who are here who have been to every single Sunday Night Live. And those people are especially awesome. Everybody that comes here is awesome, But those people are a special breed of awesome. So thank you very much to those of you that have been here since day one. And we got Kyle here as well. We got Just Bob, and we got Don Oliver, and we got the W5 family who are here as well, and it is Craig who represents them. And who else do we have? I'm just scrolling through. We got Billy Morgan here. We got Dwayne, and we got Loins. And I think that's it so far. So if you are watching and you are new and you have just stumbled upon this Sunday Night Live thing, you wanted to find out what it's all about, we talk about Studio One by Presonus, and that's what we talk about. And music production, recording, mixing, and mastering broadly in general. And essentially, it is a Q&A show. So if you have a question about Studio One, if you have a question about music production, recording, mixing, mastering, broadly in general, those are the kind of things that those are the kind of questions I endeavor to answer. I have, for those of you who don't know who I am at all, yes, I am Scottish, but I have been involved in music production for over 30 years, professionally. I'm also a professional session musician, playing keyboards, bass, and drums, and vocals, and occasionally, but very rarely, alto saxophone. It has been known to happen where somebody has hired me to sound like a cat in labor, and apparently that's what they wanted. So we got Lloyd from Pepper Up to Music here as well, who is here with a beer. I've got beers in my fridge, which is just down there underneath the keyboard. I bought a whole bunch of beers for the Studio One meetup on Friday, and I've still got plenty left. Even though I think I made my way through about 4 or 5 on Friday. So for one of the other things that's new that those you guys in the chat are probably only just discovering it. And that is, you appear to have little crowns and a number next to your name. Okay, Mike has kind of alluded to what this is. This is a new YouTube feature on live streams. It's been around, I think, a little bit for a while in comments on regular videos. And they've started rolling it out to live streams. And basically, it is just a... the more comments you make, I think, is how it works, then the more you become a top fan, and it basically ranks you based on the number of comments you make. I think that's how it works, I think. I don't know for certain, because it's really only something I've just seen maybe the last couple of shows, where I was like, oh, people have got crowns. Weird. Okay. I kind of don't like it particularly because it basically makes my chat competitive, and as far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't be. It's a community. It's not a competition to see who likes me the most or engages with me the most. It doesn't. I don't give a shit, frankly, about the whole thing. So don't be kind of alarmed by it or start getting competitive over who gets the number 1 or who gets the most XP. Don't worry about any of that shit. I don't. It does not concern me at all. Okay, so now that we've got all of that crap out of the way, we're going to start the show with a question from our good friend Bob Berda, who is also known as Just Bob. He had a great question about the Ripple editor. And Ripple Edit, by the way, is fantastic, especially if you are working on audio for a podcast, or you edit any other spoken word like audiobooks, that kind of thing. Ripple Edit is fantastically useful because it basically, you cut out a section that you don't want and it shuffles everything right up against what is left, right? So I'm going to show you how that works. I'll show you how to find the ripple edit toggle button. And the thing with the ripple edit toggle button is you got to remember to switch it off, because if you start then just editing in the normal way, things will start to shift. And you may not want that behavior to happen. So it's really useful for audio, podcasts and spoken word, that kind of thing. Maybe not so great for other audio, which is a little bit more kind of linear, time-based audio, such as music. Maybe not quite so useful. But certainly if you're working with spoken word where time and tempo are not really a thing, they're not really important considerations, and what you want to do is get a nice smooth take all the way through the podcast or all the way through the chapter of the book that you're doing, it's handy. It's very useful, which is why we put it into Studio One. And it's been around since, I think, version 6 is when we introduced it. I think it might have been in version 5.5. I don't remember exactly when we introduced it. But I do have a video on it on my channel. So if you just search for Ripple Edit, you will see the video that goes into it in a wee bit of detail. So I'm going to show you how this works in briefly, and then we'll get on to some of your other questions, because Lloyd, I did see has a question out there about printing out marker tracks. So we will go and take a look at that question as well in just a minute. So let's get into this ripple edit thing. I will open up a song that I prepared earlier for this. So let's go over to over here, and you can see the Studio One screen. And basically what I have here, and I believe Dave has just walked in. Dave's aka Bop NY. Dave is here, even though Mike said Dave's not here. He actually is. That's so funny that we all say Dave's not here, but he's here. All right, so let me show you how this works. So I've attempted to mock me counting to 4, but not really remembering what the next number is, which of course I never do. Because actually, this would be a hilarious way to count a band in. So, but yeah, so, and the idea is we want to get rid of all the hesitations and then just have nice, smooth 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's listen to what we have at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that's what we have right now. We want to get rid of these blobs here in between the numbers. So this is 1, this is 2. This is 3, and this is 4. We want to get rid of all of these blobs. Now, ordinarily, you could just kind of go and cut here, and then you would, hang on, then you would hit the delete button, and then you'd grab this and move it along, and then you do the same each time for all of those. That's a lot of mouse movements. That's a lot of clicks. Not necessarily the most efficient thing ever on the planet. So we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we are literally just going to highlight this bit here. And what we're going to do is we are going to go to the ripple edit button, which is over here next to the auto scroll button. And you hover your mouse over it and it says toggle ripple edit Control Alt and R. So if you're on a Mac, that's going to be Command Command, Control, and R, I think. I don't know. I don't know what Alt is. Is that Option? Alt is Option, isn't it, on a Mac? Yes, so it'll be Command, Option, R. So let's turn this sucker on, and then what we'll do is we'll press the delete key here, and everything moves along and fills the gap. So let's do this one here. We'll just highlight along here. And there's an even bigger gap here because I hesitated even more, so we'll close that gap down as well. So now we should have this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds a wee bit robotic, unfortunately. However, let's just say we are happy with this. And we've got this nice count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say we're okay with this, but we don't want to have all of these separate events. So we can just highlight them all, and we can do Control B, and that would bounce everything. We could also press G, which would merge them all. However, caveat, if you merge them, what will happen is this. So if I just press G, what will happen is this. You will notice that we now have this little chain icon down here. What we have done in effect is turned this into a container. Notice we don't have any gain controls on this anymore, because this is no longer an audio event. It is a container for all those separate audio events that we had. So I can double click, and this opens up the audio editor, and there are our individual audio events. So I can move that on up like that. And we've got our fade at the start, we've got our fade at the end. And if I was to highlight all of those and just press X, we'd now have crossfades between all of those mini events. But notice how we still have the one container up here. Now, this is where some people go a wee bit wrong. They will go, I've merged these, I press G, I no longer have control over the gain, I can't do fades, I can't do any of that stuff. And they'll post this on social media and present this essentially as a problem. And the response that most people will give you is just press Control B. That will give you that'll give you back the control over the gain and the fades and all of that stuff. Yes, it will. However, it's a very crude solution to the problem, because it is not a problem. It's not a bug. It's actually a feature. Pressing G merges those four little events into one audio container that still has those four separate events in it. So all you actually need to do is double click, and now you can see all the gain controls for each individual event and their crossfades. You can adjust all of those as you like in the audio editor, whilst keeping them in one single container. So it's not really actually a problem. So let's undo all of that, and we'll just leave these highlighted for a second. Now, in this particular case, I don't want to merge them. I want to bounce them. There's no effects or anything on this yet. And even if there were, it's not a big deal. So I can just press, I can highlight those, and I can press Control or Command and B. And now that bounces those into one event. And then if I decide, hey, actually, I don't want it to be quite that long, I can have it that long, and then I can just reintroduce a little fade there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so this is really useful. Now, the only problem now is you can see that this 4 is a little bit louder. So if I had gone back to where I was, I've gone back too far. Redo delete event. Okay, so if I go back to doing G, I can click on this and I can turn this last one down so it's kind of roughly the same volume level as the others. Okay, so I've still got control over the audio, over the gain, over everything else, even as it's merged. Now, like I said, maybe this is not what you want. Maybe what you really want is just basically to bounce those as one. Before you do that, though, I would recommend you just come in and make sure everything is kind of roughly level, and then select all of those. Command B, done. And now everything should sound pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So this is a very, very good little option. Ripple Edit gets rid of all of those gaps between the counts that we don't want. And now instead of it sounding like I'm a wee bit inebriated and don't know what comes after 1, what comes after 2, what comes after 3, or even what comes after 4, what my name is, what my social security number is, and where I am, and who I am, and why I am, This gets rid of all of that, and now I sound like a completely sane person. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would pass any field sobriety test that you ever may need, or you may ever have to take. So Ripple Edit is very, very useful. However, I don't recommend trying to use it in real time when you are on a traffic stop and you are on a field sobriety test. Ripple Edit will not save you, unfortunately. So there we go. That's how we do that. That's how we correct those little hesitations in a podcast or an audiobook, for example. I use this all the time because I edit a podcast every week. It's not my podcast, but I edit it on behalf of the producers of the podcast. And so I'm getting rid of all of those kind of things all the time to tidy it all up and make it sound, nice, clean, smooth. Make the speakers in the podcast sound like they don't ever hesitate or say So I go through and I manually delete all of that stuff. And I delete mistakes. I delete all sorts of stuff like that. And I cut out bits that they specifically tell me, hey, we don't actually want this. Like, we went off on a wee tangent that we actually have decided after the fact we don't want that. So then I just go and cut that out. And it's easy to do with Ripple Edit, and nobody is any the wiser that that actually took place. And it leaves me with a nice, clean looking audio event. Once I've done all of those edits with Ripple Delete, most of the time I just bounce it like I just showed you just there, rather than using G to merge everything. G to merge everything is fine. It works. It creates a container. It's a perfectly valid way of doing things. But personally, I bounce rather than using the container. But like I said, if you end up using the container, it's fine. If you prefer to merge and use the audio container, perfectly valid way to work. It is actually a feature. It's not a bug. I know I see a lot of people reporting it and saying, hey, surely this is a bug in Studio One that when you merge events, you can no longer do anything to edit them. It's not a bug, because actually this event here becomes a container for all the other events that are inside it. That's what merging does in audio. It's not like in MIDI, where you just merge the MIDI event, all the parts of the MIDI event together. It's not the same. And even then, you still don't have control over gain and stuff like that with MIDI anyway, because MIDI has no gain in that respect. It's not audio. So I hope that was helpful. I'm just going to see if there is any other questions related to this. Just Bob says, is there a way to set up your cursor to click in an open spot behind a wave to have the scroll line start from there instead of moving up the bar line to start to play? Yeah, there is. If you click on the little wrench icon here, locate when clicked in empty space. I have this unchecked, and I have actual reasons why I don't have this checked. I have it unchecked. But if you want to be able to move the cursor to wherever you want, just with a single click, then have this checked. And then when you click on a particular point, the cursor will go where you want it. All right, so have this little option checked. I would also recommend have this checked as well. Enable crosshair for tools. So for example, if you have the edit tool, then the split tool as part of your or the range select tool as your second tool on your smart tool, like I have the range select. Then as you can see, I get this little cross, and that's called the crosshairs. Okay. So for example, if I just want to get rid of all of that, I can just do that and press delete. Just like that. And now that little bit is gone. Some people like to have the knife tool as the split tool as their second tool on their smart tool. Whichever it is, have that little enable crosshairs for tools. Have that handy. Have that checked. Also, automation follows events. This is a useful thing to have checked as well. No overlap when editing audio events. I have this turned off. And the reason being is if I'm overlapping events, I want to be able to hear what's going on underneath the one that's on top, so that I can make sure that I'm crossfading between those exactly as I want to. So I have this unchecked. What other useful things can we talk about whilst we're actually here? Track notes and track icons, these are handy. Some people really asked for these a lot, especially folks that are Logic users. They wanted the track icons. Oh boy, did they want the track icons, because Logic has track icons for days. They have loads and loads and loads of track icons. And now you can have them too. You can have them in the mixer as well as channel icons. So those are useful. I don't have solo follow selection, but if you are in the mixer, for example, and you are wanting to individually solo separate channels, then that's a useful thing for you. I don't have it checked, and there's a good reason why I don't have it checked, is because I have a Studio Live mixer, and the Studio Live mixer does that anyway. I can press solo like that, and then I can move on to the next channel and press solo, and it works just fine. I can just go. If I had more tracks on this, it would be easier to demonstrate. But the Studio Live, it's just dead easy. It's just one button push. So I don't need that as an option. So there you go. I hope that this little ripple edit thing was useful. And then if you want to turn it off, you just click up there, and then you'll get the normal non-ripple edit behavior. The monitoring on sometimes causes a little confusion between audio and MIDI. Yeah, it does. Now, the interesting thing here is if you are on an audio track like this, I can not have the monitor engaged, and I don't hear what's going on coming out my speakers, but I still get signal. However, if I grab something like cinematic lights and we select just something at random like that one, and I literally just picked it at random. If I don't have the monitor icon engaged and I select this channel here, you'll see that we have MIDI data going into Studio One, but we have no audio. Why is that? Well, it's very simple. Basically, tracks and channels in Studio One do not have a one-to-one relationship. Tracks and channels are not the same thing. So, an instrument track has no audio, so to speak. It's just MIDI data. But if I enable this, now we can hear it. All right, but if I turn this off, you don't hear any sound at all. So you need, on an instrument track, to have this guy enabled as well. So it's important to, and of course, in, I think in options here somewhere, it might actually be in the options menu where you have the monitoring enabled automatically on instrument tracks. I have it disabled for audio tracks, and there's a really good reason for that, and that's because if I'm recording something via loopback, for example, if I'm doing an interview with somebody and I'm recording somebody via Teams or Discord or something else, or Zoom even, if I am recording them into Studio One and I have the monitor button enabled on their track, I will create a digital feedback loop. And that's not a good idea. I could blow my speakers doing that. So this is why I don't have monitor follow selection enabled. You'll see that in here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Monitoring follows record. I do not have this engaged for audio because if I record via loopback from either YouTube or any other external source into Studio One, it creates a feedback loop. I can blow my speakers. So I have that turned off. However, if that's not something that you do, then by all means have that enabled, and then that way you're always monitoring your track when you are recording. So if I had this enabled, you would hear doubling. In fact, you might actually be able to hear doubling just now. I have my speakers set very, very quiet, so I can't actually hear it. But if I have this turned on, if I have a reverb, for example, or a delay, then you would hear it. Without this on, you don't hear the effects sends at all. All right, so that's the difference between the monitor in an audio track and monitoring an instrument track. They behave a wee bit differently, and other DAWs don't have this. This is, I think, relatively unique to Studio One. Maybe Cubase behaves a similar way. I don't recall. It's been a long time since I used Cubase. I stopped using Cubase in 2012. I flirted with Pro Tools for a bit, and I even flirted with Reaper for a very, very short time. I found Reaper infuriating, but no DAW is as infuriating as Pro Tools. That's definitely been my experience. So yeah, each DAW kind of behaves a wee bit differently, but that's definitely the way monitoring works in Studio One. Definitely worth keeping in mind. Rich says, I believe there is a new feature in the chat that levels up folks based on questions asked or interactions. Yes, there is. And that's, I believe, what the little crown is for. JL just goes on and one unchecked. I'm not sure what Kyle is talking about there. All right, so where are we? Ron says, Billy Morgan showed me a macro called delete time in loop. A great answer for something I was trying to achieve. There you go. That's handy. Can you also crossfade it? Yes. Okay, so I've answered Bob's question there as well. Lloyd says, is there any way to print out the marker tracks as text? This is a good question. I have never actually attempted to. I don't know that it's possible because I don't believe they are text files. However, if you kind of know what you're doing, you might be able to discover where the HTML or the XML files are, rather, not HTML, where the XML files are for things like the marker track, and you might be able to just print out from the XML. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question, though. I've never, like I said, I've never actually tried it. Let's see. Markers, so start, so let's, I've not used the marker track in a long time, and I've forgotten how you insert a marker. Can somebody remind me quickly, how do you insert a marker? I have forgotten. I mean, I can use the plus thing there. Oh, there you go. It's Y. It's just the letter Y. Okay, I can do that. And the cool thing is, the marker track, with the marker track selected, I can open the marker track in the inspector. I don't know that you can print this. I don't even see a way in which you can copy paste it. No, I can't see a way in which I can select all of these and then copy paste it. So it looks like your answer is probably no, to be honest. There we go. It's Y. Yeah. I was asked by a member of the Blues Forum. I came up empty. Yeah, I don't think it's possible to be able to print it out, unfortunately. I don't think you can with the arranger track either, actually. For the same reason, I don't think you can. Kyle says, shift insert to name the marker. Yes. Yeah, so I can do Shift Y to do that. And I can edit the name there, you know, like that. And then the end marker, I can do stop at end marker. I can turn it into stop marker just like that. Let's see. Brett says, back to the spice mines of Kessel. Till next time. Yes, so long as you can make the that run in less than 12 parsecs, I'll be impressed if you can. Otherwise, enjoy the Cantina Band, my friend. Take care. Brett is here. We can navigate around the markers with the number pad. Also, I would suspect that there are some here that would benefit. Yes, I think that's a great thing to be able to do, is to use the marker track to be able to navigate through your markers. And you can see there's little play icon there as well. So and just double clicking actually allows you to rename things. So that's handy. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there we go. I hope that has been useful. Whilst I got this song open, I'm just seeing. Arami says, okay, yeah, Arami, you need to start your question with @Jonny Lipsham Studios, like everybody else has here. He says, what's the difference between motif, underlay, ostinato, and melody riff? I deleted my post from the Facebook page. That is a Wednesday night question. Wednesday night is the play. Come back here on Wednesday, Arami, and ask that question then, because that is a question for Songwriting Simplified. It's not really a Sunday Night Live question, because this is really to do with Studio One, music production, recording, mixing, and mastering. So if you've got questions about music theory, which you know, things like ostinato and that kind of stuff would be a part of that. I seem to recall actually I did address that last Wednesday. So go and check last Wednesday's show. Go watch the replay of last Wednesday's show, and I believe I even addressed some of that. So check out last Wednesday's show, and you can speed through it if you wish to find the point where I talked about ostinato and stuff like that. I believe I addressed it. Because I seem to recall seeing your post and thinking, yeah, that would be a good thing to talk about. So I think I did, if I'm not mistaken. However, I may be mistaken. And if I didn't, then that's fine. Just let me know, and I will definitely talk about it in more detail on Wednesday. But thank you for asking the question. I appreciate it. Shift plus Y to name. Yes, that's how you name markers, for sure. All right, I'm going to come out of Studio One and go back over here. I guess the one aspect I guess I could address of that little question about motifs and ostinatos and riffs and that kind of thing is basically to address the whole issue, the whole concept of nomenclature, names we give to stuff, whether it's a functionality or a feature in Studio One, whatever it might be. Especially if we are communicating about Studio One to other people, to other users, or to colleagues, or if we are trying to describe a problem that we may be encountering, and we want somebody to basically try and confirm whether this is a bug, or a feature, or whatever it might be, or user error, whatever it might be. Nomenclature is really important, because by using the correct nomenclature, we can all understand what we're talking about, and it doesn't mean that there has to be a series of back and forth questions about defining exactly what it is you're talking about. So, for example, we've just talked about the marker track. Marker track is the correct name for that little strip at the top with the flags. However, I have heard it referred to as the flag track, which, of course, makes sense because they do look like little flags. And technically, they kind of are flags, but they are marker flags. Hence, the track is called the marker track. Now, if somebody says, hey, I'm having a problem with the flag track in Studio One, everybody's going to be like, the what track? There is no flag track. What are you talking about? And, then that means the person who has the problem hasn't been helped. And it's kind of the person that responds' fault for not understanding, but also it's the person that has the problem's fault for not accurately communicating what they're having an issue with. I split my time working for Personas between tech support and QA. So when I'm working in tech support, I see this relatively regularly where the ticket just has next to no information about the person's problem. It just says Studio One not working. How am I supposed to know in what way it's not working? Or they'll refer to something that is on their screen, which of course I cannot see because I am not there. You have no idea how many times I get that, where they are referring to something that is specifically displayed on their screen and they're talking to me as if I'm there. And I'm just, please provide a screenshot because I need to see what you are seeing because I am not in your studio. I cannot see what you are seeing. I don't know whether there is this assumption that somehow we can see everybody's screens, that somehow we have remote access to everybody's computers and we, through Studio One in some way, where we can have access to everybody's Studio One and we can see exactly what they're seeing on their screen when we open their ticket. It doesn't work like that. Because actually, A, that would be illegal, B, that would be incredibly invasive, and C, it's illegal. You can't access somebody's computer without their permission. So no, tech support doesn't have access to your computer by default, just because you have Studio One open and we open your ticket. It doesn't link our computer to yours and we can't see what you see. So this is where describing accurately what is important. How do you go about learning what the correct nomenclature is for describing things in Studio One? Well, the number one, the best way is to actually look for the particular part of Studio One that you're having the issue with in the user guide. Now, this is not me saying RTFM and that'll fix your problem. Actually, in a lot of cases it will, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is read the manual, because by reading the manual, you will see what things are called and where they are in Studio One, and you'll be able to therefore use the correct name. So in this example, we're talking about the marker track. So you now know what it is. It's called the marker track. So you might say to me, hey, I'm having an issue where I cannot put a marker flag at this particular point on the marker track in my song. Why is that? Now that's something I can immediately get to, and I can try and reproduce it. Because I know the problem is with trying to put a marker flag and at a specific point in a song. I can try and reproduce that by putting a marker flag in a similar spot in a new song with no tracks or channels or anything like that. So I can do that to see if I can reproduce the problem. Now, it could be that in that particular case, they're just not using the correct keyboard shortcut, or they're not, then they don't have the mouse pointer pointed in the right place, or they could, maybe they have the mouse pointer pointed in the timeline ruler rather than the track, and that's why it's not applying. So, there's therefore a bunch of potential solutions to their problem that could be user error as opposed to a bug. But it enables me to quickly and easily, and anybody else in this community or in the Facebook community or on the Studio One Pro Plus community, if we all talk about the same things using the same terms, the same language, it makes it quicker and easier to identify what's what. So whilst we all might have our own little kind of descriptors and descriptive terms for certain aspects of Studio One, knowing what the actual official name for that feature or function is important, especially if you're communicating with technical support or you're communicating with another user that doesn't know what your own personal little pet name for that thing is. So that's something to bear in mind when we're talking about nomenclature. And that applies to what I'm going to address on Wednesday to do with motif, riff, and ostinato, and the differences thereof between, and the similarities between those particular musical concepts, because they are different, but they're also related. All right, so come back on Wednesday if you want to know more about how I'm going to clearly define what each one of those are and how to differentiate between an ostinato, a riff, and a motif. Because sometimes actually an ostinato can be a motif, and a motif and an ostinato can actually also be a riff as well. So they can also all function in the same way, but they're different. So we will describe that on Wednesday. So come back here at that time. Let's see, who else do we have here? I need to go back over to this screen so that I can really catch up with everything. Ron says it'd be nice to see a graphic that shows the window and what the icon's images are and do. Well, the user manual actually does kind of have some of that. There are screenshots for most things. Now, I'm not going to say there's screenshots for everything, because there's still, there's actually a lot of text also that describes what things are. But there are some icons and images. Now, I'm going to show you one other very, very useful feature, especially if you are new to Studio One. So let's go back over to the screen. And that is this little button here. The little question mark icon. No, it is not a reference to Doctor Who, although I think it would be very, very cool if it was. But it's not. It's called the info view. Now, when I click on this guy here, you will see that we have this little window that appears here, and it says displays the device name of the currently selected hardware controller. Okay, so now if I hover my mouse over this event, have a look at what appears. It now says arrow tools, select, drag, control alt. Will give you a slip event, so you can slip edit the event. You can use the up arrow to draw selection. You can the pointer you can use to draw the selection. You can toggle select. You can select all on track. You can edit the event. You can control. You can use control to select the range tool. You can use shift and alt and zoom in, and you can use shift and alt to undo the zoom state as well. So there's a whole bunch of things just to do with hovering the mouse over an audio event that gives you a whole range of things that you can do, and including keyboard modifiers to select them. So let's move away from that. Track name, double click here to rename your track. Okay, so now if I open this here, it doesn't actually show what this is in the info view. But if you just click on different things, it will show you what they are. So if I go down here, displays the recording time that is left based on available disk space. And then this here is the cache activity. Opens the song setup dialog, which offers many audio format and routing and meta information in the current song. Single click to edit current position of the playback head using the keyboard. Click and drag to edit using the mouse. Yada, yada, yada. Tells you what those all do. Click to edit the time signature denominator. Chord wheel. Transpose. And tempo. So this view is very, very handy, and you can detach this and you can actually stick this on a second screen. Or you can just close it like that. So I have that closed, but I tell you this, when I first started using Studio One 12 years ago? Yeah, 12 years ago. Pretty much 12 years ago, since I first started using Studio One. I did actually use that so that I could actually learn what stuff does and what I can do to certain things, like what I can do to an audio event. And sometimes if I forget, like things like, for example, slip editing. Slip editing is really, really cool, especially if you're wanting to try and line up a kick drum with a crash cymbal, because maybe there's some phase issues going on there between the overheads and the kick drum mic, for example, and you want to just line those up. Or maybe the kick drum is just a little bit late because the drummer has just played it a little bit late, and you want to tidy up that timing. Slip edit is really, really cool for doing that. And so I don't do it very often. So when I do, it's handy to know what keyboard modifiers I need to get into slip edit mode and to be able to do that. So occasionally I will click on that to remind myself what it is I need to do. And I go, oh yeah, it's Control and Alt, and away we go. So those are things to bear in mind. Even if you've been using Studio One for a long time, you can't remember everything. So the info pane is really, really handy. All right, let's go back over to here. Let's see. Just Bob lost his crown. Sorry, dude. Let's go and see. I taped my voice could mean an older person, meaning the recorded. I don't know what that means, Mike. Robert Hunter is here. Hello, Robert. I think you're new to my channel. Welcome. You say 64 defined MIDI CCs I have set up on a Native Instruments Control S3 to use within Studio One are not displayed accurately within Studio One. Is this a forum for this question? It is a great question, Robert. And you could certainly ask here. I don't have your particular keyboard to be able to test the issue. So I'm not going to be able to say yay or nay to whether that's an issue with your keyboard or whether that's an issue with Studio One, because I don't have the keyboard and I don't have the integration files to be able to test whether that's true or not. However, somebody here may well have the particular keyboard you're talking about, but maybe not. So, folks, in the chat, if you do have that particular keyboard, please see if you can verify that for Robert Hunter. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. But welcome, Robert. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it a lot. However, if nobody has the keyboard and they can't help you here directly, Robert, what I will recommend is, if you are a member of Studio One Pro Plus, go and ask that in the community, because that really is what the community is for. And you may actually, because there is a much broader audience over there than there is here, you may well happen upon somebody that does have your keyboard and can give you some direct help. And they can certainly test and see if they can verify whether you do genuinely have an issue. And if you do find that somebody confirms that this is definitely a problem, then I would suggest that you make a support ticket from your my.personas.com account, and you can do that. Simple. Log in, click on support, click on the plus icon on the left-hand side to create a new ticket. Give the tech support agents as much information as you can about the issue and about what you have learned from, folks in the community who have been able to verify the issue, and then what they might be able to do, what the tech support agent might be able to do. If they have a Native Instruments keyboard, they may be able to actually just test it themselves and verify it. And if they can, then they can pass that over to developers to investigate why that might be and see if they can fix it. But, if the tech support agent doesn't have that keyboard, they may well just pass it over to developers to see if they might be able to reproduce it anyway. They don't have access to everything. This is the thing that people don't maybe understand about either tech support or Studio One developers. Neither tech support nor Studio One developers have access to every single setup and configuration possibility or variable. They just don't. I mean, you'd be asking for every possible CPU, every possible graphics card, every possible, I don't know, storage device, every possible MIDI keyboard that there is. You know, nobody's going to have access to all, no company in the world is going to have access to all of that stuff. So there is some stuff where, you know, our developers may well actually have to reach out to Native Instruments and say, hey, guys, can you actually test this on our behalf and see what you can find out? That is definitely a possibility that they can do. We can't directly do that. We can't directly ask that. But we might say one of our tech support agents might say to, for example, you, Robert, is, hey, we cannot directly reproduce this issue, but you might get lucky if you actually make a support ticket with Native Instruments, and Native Instruments may be actually able to directly verify it. And if they can directly verify it at Native Instruments, they have channels of communication directly with our development team, and they can work the issue together. So that's something that definitely can be done. Like I said, I can't personally verify that or deny it because I don't know. But I hope I've given you some avenues for being able to find somebody that might be able to help you more directly. Or certainly you can, if you do find that information and you do get it verified, you can certainly pass that over to tech support, and, you know, they'll either pass it over to development or they may be able to help you more directly with the actual answer. Unfortunately, I don't have any Native Instruments keyboards to be able to help you with that, but I'm glad you asked it. It's a good question. Robert says, I appreciate your response. I will take your advice regarding the Studio One community and follow up. Okay, great. Yeah. Thanks for that, Robert. Yeah. The Studio One Pro Plus community, they may well be able to help you directly. And if not, like I said, you can make a support ticket and go from there. Ron says, I've been using Google Assistant on my Android phone and I've got some helpful answers. Yeah, AI is... The thing you've got to remember about AI is that AI does what we would do anyway, which is go and research on the internet. So it kind of does what we would ordinarily do. It just does it a lot faster. So AI is not perfect because it relies upon finding results on the internet, and it may well just find the top results and then summarize that and present that to you. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be accurate information. It just means it's going to be the most searched information that it found, because essentially it will use the search engine optimization. And it will look for the top results, and then it will present you with the top result information because it thinks, hey, top result information, bound to be accurate. Not always the case. The search SEO can be manipulated. Scammers use that all the time. You know, scammers will use SEO to get their scammy websites as top results. On every page. And then, of course, AI just looks at that and presents that as a result to you. So those are the perils and the dangers of AI. Take AI with a pinch of salt. It's not always going to be correct. It's not always going to give you the right information. Just because it's a machine doesn't mean it's going to be right. All right, there we go. that is the end of the show. Mike is saying, I promise to all I will leave the Philippines and visit people at some point. Probably this year at some point, maybe the UK first. Okay, cool. Mike, that would be awesome. Just let us all in the UK know when you're going to be here. Army says, it'd be great to have Harmony Wizard implemented a modal mixture tool using circular fifth wheel or something based on selection scale. Okay, that would be a feature request for Lucas Ruzicka. I recommend you go talk to him because he develops that. It is not a PreSonus product. All right, so that would be my recommendation there, Army. Go and make that a feature request on Lucas's website for Harmony Wizard. And that I'm not saying that that's a bad suggestion. I think that's actually a pretty good one. But yeah, Harmony Wizard is Lucas's product. It's not a PreSonus product. So yeah, that's the best place for you to make a feature request for that. But Harmony Wizard's a great tool. It's a great product. I support Lucas in developing it and what he's done with it. I think it's really great. So yeah, ask him is what I'm going to say. But for right now, we are at the end of the show. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me tonight. You guys have been fab as usual. You've asked some fantastic questions. We peaked at 25 people, but we've only got 19 likes. So if there's 6 other people that haven't liked, please do. I would appreciate it. It helps me a lot. But, if you haven't found this useful, then don't like it. It's fine. I don't have a problem. He's more likely to pick a feature request over on the Studio One forum. Yes, StudioOneForum.com is the unofficial Studio One forum. So, and Lucas runs and manages that. He actually built that himself. So all credit to Lucas for building that. And go and make that request there for Harmony Wizard over there. I think that's a great idea. And of course, Billy is going to do an after show Zoom. So if you want to go join him there, you'd be very welcome. We're done, folks. I will see you back here on, no, actually, scrub that. Scrub what I was just about to say. I'm not going to be here on Wednesday. Sorry. I totally forgot. I totally forgot to say. So don't leave yet. Don't everybody leave yet. I'm not going to be here on Wednesday, so there will be no Songwriting Simplified. So for those that actually ask questions about musical concepts, please hold on to that for me for the week after. Okay? So not this Wednesday, but the next Wednesday. I'd appreciate that. I'll be away at the UK Fender headquarters office for a few days. So I'll be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but I'll be back for Sunday Night Live. So there will be no Songwriting Simplified on Wednesday. Sorry about that. That's my fault. So everyone else, pile over to Billy's Zoom. I will see you next week for Sunday Night Live. No Wednesday show. Please spread the word to folks that like the Songwriting Simplified show. Let them know that there is no show this week, but we'll be back to normal the week after. All right, folks. Good night.